Anxious words. Idiom. She has a rugged carapace and the redundancies of superlatives and the intractability of serendipity, stifled by the latency of others and entombed by the holy ziggurat, with a penchant for disorderly madness broken with a kick from the dipstick. Her name is a dirty rhombus, the number plate of a Nissan Leaf or a pinwheel in the sky, the clement climate of a small constituency bringing the lingo back from bingo and the irony of the ironing and the jugular of the juggler and the seasoning of the spring. Falling in love is a ball ache, because when you find someone to have and to hold, don't trade them for silver, don't trade them for gold, they will always inevitably leave you, leaving no one else in the world who's quite like them. Sometimes the world is so delicious. The world is the word is the world. Memorize this. Motherfucker, please, one day your hands will be stained old and grey, your hair and teeth rotten or vanished altogether, and you will remember this time when you were munching on a lunchbox, and all around the hum of machines mining data, a full extrapolation of all of your possible futures. Every time you miss a beat, a kitten dies in a car crash. Every false intonation is the birth of a nation, is a prophetic fallacy to be stored and saved by the Ministry of Magic. Memorize this, motherfucker. It's more important than your passwords, your bank details, and your NI number combined. It's dangerous to go alone, so take this poem, may it serve you well. Stentorious, sans serif, and spectacular. CGN Society. She sat down heavily, lit the wrong end of her cigarette, and sighed. I'm so fucking wasted right now, she said, and my life is a train wreck, and if my parents could see me, they'd be ashamed. She passed out and I left her lying there in a pool of her own vomit so I could get as drunk as she was. There's no such thing as a gentleman anymore, just men and women stumbling through life in the same way they always have. Welcome to society, our capitalistic, gender-neutral society. We are all equal in our misery. Stanley's nervous breakdown. Two-faced lying, genuinely nice person, treated like shit considered two-faced, piss shite, tweet fight VIP and another two-faced fair weather bullshitting mask has been made in the past 2 hours, thanks asshole. Rely on your own two-face alone, even Twitter face shite and your head of shite still the nighttime, earth shattered constantly on my problems, two-faced states of mind. I never liked my teacher's dying, never told he cared about anyone, genuinely sold on two-faced hosing petrol, and his hands will meet a grinder soon in dinner dates with anaphylactic shock, dinner date in the path of a moving car, dinner date refrigerate and don't come back, 5 cyanides for shite narration, rehypnol two-faced ingredients. If you think this is a pity poem, fuck off painlessly nice alternative piss poor pathetic existence. Stanley, my boy, I think you need to see a doctor. Univocalisms. Had a grab manner, back sad and grand and all apparent, had a ask and ass and canvas lands that span grass and sand, and her sex needs respect, she entered reckless spectres, wrenched wenches senseless, elected renders bent, brewed egress, wet entrenched, welded, west red defected, engendered, tested, resplendent end. Is it Ifrit's limit, his instincts illicit, intrinsic? Ifrit's insipid ills billing, willing infringing mints. Is Ifrit's sinking shilling in mini triffids, pinching, crinkling Britishisms? Go goodly or bold, got polos who told old dogs off, who sold gold on cold folds of thongs. Hop on bottom, smoky foods of cosmos, who go to moon rooms, snowy owls, sorry. Guns, drugs, bulls, ghouls, mulch up, burnt surplus. Pump fulcrums, plum crunch, stun frumpy drunks, fuck up, uncut, unhurt but stung, fun, sun, dumbstruck. Groupthink. We have practiced thinking, learned to allow the flow of time and inspiration to disrupt New York and San Francisco, to change the world morphing fossil fuels into solar panels prohibited from public discussion half the world away. The most beautiful places in the world are cracked and broken, cast aside by the reckless hands of men who burn forests for profit and grow meat where they once grew wheat. Their truth is just one truth. Our living planet pulsates alive in the knowledge of 7 billion lies, and guess what? She can't do a damn thing about it. All the armies of all the worlds weighed down with machine guns and bazookas. Hollow-eyed men in the backs of Chinooks playing at war like a video game. But game over means game over, not just for you but for your enemies. How much hatred must one man have to turn a wife into a widow and a mother into a broken woman? If this is the way we're supposed to think, I'm glad I'm inspiringly different. There's no room on this earth for the men who long for destruction. If you want to bring ruin upon something, bring ruin upon yourself. I've been there, I've done that, and I'm currently wearing the t-shirt. Ice gems. Buried in the snow, as the hollow sun smiles relentless, absorbed in its own convalescence, showered with turmeric and paprika, strawberry plantations like lines of cress on a supermarket shelf, little soldiers marching off the war while the bombs fizz and bang, a car backfiring in machine gun smoke, and the IDF, IRA, SAS, and the injured men and women and the regime's dying children cuddle stuffed animals, pooled in bloody coagulate. Every great civilization falls eventually, inevitably. Take your head from the guillotine and use it. Strike down the barons of oil, the kings and queens of unsustainable electronic evolution. Recharge your batteries before the bridges break and the ice begins to melt. Supernovae. We are ripe and ready to go while the others are stuck in the changing room, paralysed by the sound of the starting gun. Other men and women are other men and women, and we are special, and we specialise in immortality like Asimovian cyborgs, self-repairing and self-replicating, and able to withstand the harshest of conditions when we're required to. The slow, methodical footsteps cause ripples in the continuum as time marches steadily on towards its final rendezvous with the Eschaton, Armageddon, end of days, and the sad grim Myra prophesied by priests and scientists alike, arguing only about the dates. I live every day as if the sun is about to explode. I'm regularly amazed when it doesn't. Donald Trump's huge new erection. Money talks, it swears and bribes and spits, picks meat from between its teeth and sweats beside you at the bus stop, votes for British nationalists, buys albums by the wanted, stalks TV stars on Twitter, wears replica clothing without irony. Money is rude to all weevils. It burns holes in pockets, causing ruptures for sport when we are all the same, whether born with silver spoons or generations of debt, impoverished on the streets of Sao Paulo. Money is the mean little shit who burned the wings off butterflies, age 11, holding mirrors up towards the sun, who called his father a bastard for simply standing up to him. Money is the blood pooling on the floors of slaughterhouses, the guilty secret that consumers must never know. Money is metal, the acidic taste of hangovers your mother never mentioned, the tears of 17-year-olds volunteered for war now showered with brains as bullets hit the skulls of their commanding officers. Money is old, fat rich wankers with their tops off, dying early due to heart disease and buried in an unmarked grave with no one left to mourn them when they're gone. Then again, perhaps I'd feel different if I had any. Subway lines. We are all buried by our doctors and our mothers and our fathers who are in heaven, sent back in dreams to poison our unripe minds ahead of the great upheaval, when modern life is no more rubbish and the stars come out to play in farmers' fields, flood-lit and full of pain and singing their open hearts out, celebrating the solstice when they're less of a man with fewer men around. They are the alias of Robert Zimmerman's alias, the super wealthy supporters who make us superstitious, like women afraid to be seen eating in public who are fine when off their face on Frosty Jacks or K-hold comatose in bed with their best friend's boyfriend. Your debauchery is unwelcome here unless you involve me in it. I have a penis and a brain and a foot-long veggie delight on Italian herbs and cheese with onions, lettuce, cucumber, gherkins, peppers, jalapenos, southwest sauce and pepper. Rock, paper, scissors. It's not just a game of luck, the scientists say. The evolution of biology has made us infinitely susceptible to the numbers that surround us and bind us, the body language shared by the indigenous of the world as storms rage and fireworks detonate, trailing fibrous petroleum disaster smoke in the rainforests of Peckham and Streatham and Wickham. We are the children of the railways who are sick to death of Arriva and who never learned to drive and who never really wanted to. If you can, then we can, and sometimes that's enough. This weekend, the debate will finally be settled. Paper, I choose you. Arriva 800-850. To paraphrase the greats, never has a company been hated so much by so many. They are the scum that floats on the water, that stagnates in the bucket that brewed our primordial stew. They are the reason why I write while I'm walking in great cursive lines, stumbling into signs and foliage, much to the amusement of the shopkeepers who won't sell me cigarettes, the pedestrians who won't lend me a mobile phone, the motorists who ignore my proffered thumb. Hell, even prisoners get to make a phone call, or do cardiac arrests not count? They are the reason for countless 260 carousels, £4 day passes and £4.50 day plus passes now the price has gone up. £12 taxis over and over, £12 taxis when I've already got a fucking ticket. So I walk the 8 miles home because the 5-mile route cuts across a motorway, and because my ticket ain't worth shit and I weep for the tree that it's printed on, because the bus didn't show up after 90 minutes and I thought, hey, I could walk it in this time, so I did. Ironically, the only bus I've seen so far was out of service, but I've seen sewage plants and cemeteries, stinging nettles and farm shops, discarded gloves and an old hoodie, and this is real countryside if you ignore the road I'm walking on. I last passed a sign 20 minutes ago saying 2 miles to Bourne End, another 2 miles to Wickham, and another 2 miles to my flat. My feet will hate me in the morning, but not as much as I'll hate them. Sitting down's the worst thing I could do, so I write and I walk and I vent my spleen because, oh look, Bourne End. A reaver is truly outrageously shit. Can I get a hallelujah? They take our money and they crush our spirits and leave us no choice but to keep going back or to walk 3 marathons each week just to get to work and back. Dastardly Schweinhunds, bellends of the highest order, shit stains on the anus of humanity, unholy douche water in life's lemonade, dog's ejaculate mixed with gone-off milk, the pus seeping from the blisters beneath my feet. I tell you what, I need to learn to drive a car.
Smoke and mirrors. Stallions. Who will break the bones, burn the bodies, and direct us beyond the grave to the nearest public house? Who will watch the skies, digging twinkling diamonds, pulled out like a rotten tooth? The gaping maw of the cosmos filled with the garbage and detritus of yesterday's triumphs, today's indiscretions, and the crippling defeat we face tomorrow. My real name is lost on me. I come from a long line of teachers, accountants, chefs, nurses, boat builders. The real meaning of being is screaming in our ears every time we shake hands or tell our women that we love them. We bode well for the future. The liquidity of time's evanescence stoppered in bottles and shattered in storehouses as we sing and we dance and fall over. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. Who? My generation is open to life, love, laughter, yet to be broken down by the burdens of adulthood. We have the exuberance of youth, the energy that fades over time. We are in our prime days, numbered, not too late to rock the boat. My generation is the generation which loves meetings, served champagne and strawberries at lunchtime. Brave soldiers passed over for promotion for challenging the status quo. People try to put us down just because we get around. 18 months, the average tenure at your first place of employment. Job hopping every couple of years to keep things fresh. This is alcoholic bribery and damn it, it works. Pour me another one, Richard, it's Friday and my lover's arms are calling. Chester. The walls fall apart, grass grows green, sprouting and shooting in the boardroom. Slipknot on Spotify and this theory is 14 and still ghosts gather back towards the boiler, part of this place like the walls and doors and floors, elevated, cracked and on the rise. Poisonous dust clouds choking deoxygenized, lead and tar and soot and sweat cooling the dying fireball exploding onto the scene since 1989, when my 3 favourite authors lived under the same sun as me. Baby steps crying in the corner and he's chained like a dog to the railings and his right hand's raised in Tiananmen's second coming. Destruction is deplorable, but sometimes you have to knock down a house if you want to build a home. Parseltongue. Amy slept with the geckos, eyes closed, mouths open, amyl nitrate in vitro fertilization, and the aeroplanes salute long lines of phosphorescence, tearing the sky a new one. Lizards dressed as people, kings and queens and presidents, long tongues gilt with sweat beads, salient eyes that crisscross, and the stench of death is overwhelming. Passers-by pass by passengers, lighters up, heads down and off forgetful. The sharp taste of vinegar packed in plastic and unescapable nutritional values, buried in the belly of the beast. Leery and uninhabitable, lungs ruptured, heartbeat slowing, skin crawling, expanding cataracts, godforsaken mess in the fields of Jorah's twisted imaginations, finally on trial with the lizard men. Prezi. We are presentable, the sensible, reprehensible electorate, the wrenching stench of benchmarks, politicians' playthings, dark marks on scattergraphs, battered and inanimate, ticking batches of boxes in Birmingham. We have lost our foxes, butchered badgers, bred British bulldogs, born badly bruised, umbilically empirical, like long-lost women conquering countries, expanding empires. We are FMCG, BBC TV in the city, southeast eating meat, wandering the streets with blisters on our feet. PR is easy. Give me a call when you're ready to be famous. VR. Get this into your head. There are infinite universities in our infinite universe, and there are millions of me and millions of you, and somewhere, somewhen, we fell deeply in love with each other, and you would hold my hand and fall asleep beside me. But that is not in this reality, and I don't have the heart to tell you what could have been. You just wouldn't understand, and you would take my hand and throw it right back at me, and I'd retreat into my world reading fiction and fantasy and find a place to call home, if only for half an hour before bed or in the bath or on the bus. Get this into your head. Even our harsh reality is better than the alternative. If you exist only in your mind, then you don't exist at all, and I have fallen in love again with a figment of my imagination. She is so beautiful, the gods marvel at their own ingenuity, and I would go to war for her. Illuminatus. Enchanted creature, long mane bristling, burned desire. Partisan emotions floating downstream as the frost kicks in. Messages in bottles crying for help, saddened and shakeable and lighting the darkness we all must face eventually. The patterns of snowflakes, indistinguishable from children's art, painted from the heart, and the colours are more than colours. One man's hell is another man's hell, neither hot nor cold but infinite grey, and the devastating walls you remember from hangovers, the brutal fear that stilled your heart when the twin towers tumbled down and the world stopped to think and in its infinite wisdom declared a war on terror. I am terrified of the death and the dark and the failings of terror itself. Don't let the fear win or it'll ruin you in the end. Preserve your flesh and bones bottled in formaldehyde and your mind will follow you into the ether. The illusion of time. Choice is a wonderful thing, and a chance is a fine thing too. What clothes to wear and how to part your hair, and your ultimate goal is wrapped up in gold and buried at the bottom of a rainbow. Prepubescent boys and girls, the descendants of long lines of men with silver hair and sparse beards who drank liquor and played bridge at the gentleman's club and slept with women half their age, addicted to leather upholstery and sparkling wine served in goblets. They are beyond our control. They measure out the hourglass sand, weigh it on a small pair of digital scales, pack it into plastic baggies and sell it on street corners. Immortality you can store, smoke or inject. Our most precious commodity will not be moved again. We have the information stored securely on stolen servers. In the age of immortality, you can snort, smoke or inject. Immortality, your prices are too high and your sand is cut with baking powder. Dry off your eyes and ride the next plane home. Naviglio Grande. All hail Milano, city of surprises where beauty spots blend with building sites and sightseers score motorists careering wildly across tram lines. Bad buses built for bored drivers and a change is as good as a rest, my friend. Milano, where the tea is milkless and the tourists are taxed, the money pocketed by corrupt carabinieri, where the city grinds to a halt on sunny Sunday days after 24 hours of rain, where the dogs are nicer than people, church steeples keep appearing dank with the rancour of homelessness and beggars begging, pickpockets picking pockets, gentle old Italian women escorting their bambinos south of the city centre. Milano, you've been good to me like Coventry. You have the Dutch debauchery in Birmingham's buildings. Milano, the division between old and new, the eternal war between science and art represented in the Santa Maria del Grazie and the Museo di Storia Naturale. Pistols. Skin-tight lines packed in jazz cafes, sweating topless and dreadlocked, ganja smoke rifling to the stars and back, a trumpet announcing the arrival brought down in harmony, lighters in the air, skanks skanking and the bass is downright sickening, and I quake unreserved, ready to rage and rave, coordinated, dispelled by the boom of the drums and the deep emotive voice of whichever black guy is leading the pack tonight. Jazz? This ain't jazz, it's the primal sound that haunts your dreams and nightmares, true dub tucked under chloroform jungle. Christmas poem for a saviour that doesn't exist. Consumers of the world, you have been duped, and your hard-earned dole money could be faster wasted if you placed it in the hands of a one-armed bandit. Santa's claws gouging holes in your wallets and purses, and your decorations are redundant. Your trees resemble your tinsel does not add light to the darkness. Consumers of the world has been consumed, and you gotta write your poems standing in line at the post office, shuffling halfway across the world. Listen, buddy, I'll celebrate your pretend holy days when you celebrate the rising of the sun. Scientific and sublime and a relief to make it through the night again. And the drugs keep you alive because you can't spend money when you're dead. And if you really believe what you say you believe, then why does death frighten you? And why try to avoid the inevitable? If anal sex is unnatural, then medicine's unnatural too. Quit flying the double standard and stop using your false syllogisms to trick young minds into entrapment, to poison their unripe minds ahead of the great upheaval when all of religion's bloodthirsty tracts will be celebrated not as fact but as fiction. Then and only then will I kiss you beneath the mistletoe. Come with me and take my hand, let's pretend that we're dead and that life's incessant demands are just a series of lights flashing through our heads and never manifest. The gifts we give to pregnant women who selfishly bring life into this world that's too to raise a child in, where kids get shot at for trying to get an education, and let's face it, we're dead the second we stop learning. All these words running through my head, and I am the bread baked from the dead. Twice the rhyme in half the time. Dead beats beating death, deaf streets meeting breasts, breath held melting wings. Sing the limericks with 5 live pilots pushing sunlight straight towards your door, 4 floors tall and all apologetic. Frenetic lettuce, broiling winds, tumbling bins and scarlet sins. Instincts whimpering fingers flinging stinging rain. Don't panic. Xbox. Mate, I've written books and I've read them. I've read books that made the world burn and that made me fall in love with my own imagination. I've recorded albums and blagged so much I don't know who I am anymore. I've made people cry and I've made people laugh, and I'm delightfully weird, at least in my eyes. I've stood on the shoulders of giants and consumed my own body weight several times over. I kneeled young and I knelt on John, and now old Johnny's rotten. I read his words and sing his songs so Johnny's not forgotten. I've learned to distill the past and present and to try to change the future. I've fought the sword witch and lived to tell the tale. I've singed my own skin by burning the candle so brightly. Lived through 5,000 sunsets in the prisons and the flower pots, and Birmingham is next to go. Chemicals from factories poisoning canals, and I can't score a goal on FIFA, but I live my life without a walkthrough, so don't go sharing spoilers. I write poems that don't exist. Feederism. Hold on tight, because when you see it, bricks, your whole world inverted and everything you thought you knew will change forever and you can't go back and start again. It's like losing money or smashing just because you want to smash. There is no truth, just a popular perception that you happen to subscribe to. We are all energy condensed into shuffling atoms, and you can rearrange and reinvent yourself if you put your mind to it. And time is just a construct to stop us from going crazy. There are more dimensions than we know about. Our thoughts and emotions based entirely on incorrect assumptions, like working for the man when wired up to the matrix with the assumption that money buys freedom. We are free to live and die in solitude. We are free to sell our minds and bodies for wads of cotton and paper, but when death comes a knocking, it ain't gonna matter in the end. All this shit clogging your arteries, a deep unkindness like when you don't know how to feel because no one ever wiggled in your direction. This is for the acne-ridden teenagers convinced they'll never get laid, the gay kings and queens who stand out by standing out. You will find someone and they will destroy you. Glastonburyanism. Look at the French and the Dutch and the Danish who ride their bicycles in the faces of bomb squads. Terror kids tearing up capital cities just to watch the world burn. The curses of men who never lived and never died. The gods visible only in the actions of men who fight deluded holy wars while we laugh in the face of hate and celebrate the simple fact of life. Love and prosperity guaranteed to all is my kind of society. Girls talk and boys talk. And girls can drive buses and work on construction sites, and boys can wear pink and shave their legs, chest and armpits. And girls can kiss girls and boys can kiss boys, and the gays are not a problem. It's the straight folk you want to worry about. It's like every form of creativity is inspired by the people you love, even if you only love yourself. Take this philosophy and run with it. Take up your pens and paintbrushes and stick them where the sun don't rhyme, because all we are is all we are, and you could do anything if you got off your ass and tried it. Anonymous' white mask of freedom. Regulators of the internet, you have been warned. We will not bow down to pressure or stand idly by while you bully our ISPs into submission, stunting the organic growth of the greatest repository of knowledge the world has ever seen. Tim Berners-Lee has every right to be angry. His great invention destroyed by government entities like Alan Turing's poisoned apple, depriving our anarchic world of the greatest minds of a generation. Mohandas Gandhi marching to war armed with DDoS attacks and security breaches, loopholes in the code which lie in wait on darknet servers, proxied and clouded with secrecy, where guns and drugs change hands on the open market. This is not our problem. We are righteous folk who live in peace and stylize the new world order with motion graphics and virtual reality. We write our wills on word processors, and 10 Downing Street claims to have the right to see them, but this is not 1984 and I am alive to show for it. So tell that to the kings and queens on their ivory thrones in ruined palaces. Information is the currency of love. Bits and bobs and petabytes whizzing through underwater pipes, panhandling along as they transmit, wirelessly encircling the badlands which fight to halt its progress. The greatest invention since the Gutenberg press, and they want to tear it apart and put it back together again. You feel the ache in your heart and mind when risky acronyms threaten to derail your whole career path. You feel unsafe in the knowledge of men with false agendas who sign edicts and ruin buildings to decide the world's future, and I don't trust them. Give me pens and paper and distilled in invisible ink, sacred texts that don't shake the world but which reveal your inner secrets, stirrings for girls at open mic nights, and the way your friends touch your arm and look different every day and still beautiful. Anonymous's white mask of freedom is a flag for the faithful to rally around. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and the auditors are neither. They are the living conscience of the net which protects its best interests, sometimes breaking the law in the process. Our leaders do not lead us into greatness. They cripple our lines of communication and riddle us with misinformation, and I trust our hive mind more than anyone, man. You see, first there was IRC, which allowed specialist groups to form around a subject of their choice. Then came MSN, Windows Live, BBM, and the rise of Bebo and MySpace. So far, so good. Then the web hit its terrible teens, and we signed up en masse to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, and WhatsApp. And now our fragmented entities are just stressful lives lived out in public. Mass hallucinations and delirium pulling us together and pushing us apart. Up with the hooligans. We are the Legion with the blood red pens and the jet black cats, spider tats across our backs, and Mr. Cage will see you now. We are writers united against the light, beggars, rogues and thieves who deceive routinely, evil beings you need to release to wander the streets of the world with their wings unfurled. We are the witches and warlocks, the creatures of sin and depravity, born not unto gravity but forsaken. We are the mad and the stark, the clay in the dark and the cage in the park. We've got our eyes on the prize, and it's time to decide whether to ride this train or to run away again. Playing the guitar with no hands. Music is the fuel that sets our hearts alight in the darkness of night when the light has died and all our friends have gone to bed and we're kept awake by the voices in our heads. It's deafening, the shredded strings and the way they sing about things that mean something to them and to you and to me, and I have become a chuckle brother. You can lift your spirits with meaningful lyrics or come to a stop with generic pop. The choice is pathetically yours. Don't fret, never ever fret. Just play your chords to loud applause. The thoughts you stored to explore before the hungry who only came to watch you die on stage again. Vultures and magpies, the lot of them, they forget that this is the end and not the beginning. Bonds. Rude dudes who punch you if you look at them funny. The ghosts of girlfriends past when you sink the gin fast and tell her she's fantastic. Sam Buckley off his face on methamphetamine, wearing his booze-stained Villa shirt like a badge of honour when they lost 4-0 in the FA Cup final. Smoking areas full of jokers, and you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We talked about the bonds that bind us, the shiny-faced who walk past with asses out trying to find a sneaky fix from the we used to live with. Mick Foley. Mick Foley with tacks in his back slammed fast to the mat like a heart attack, attacked with a bat in a handicap match. Mick Foley fighting furiously, fearlessly pacing the ring in Madison Square Garden's turn of the century no-holds-barred pay-per-view. Mick Foley with his hand in the air like a vulture circling a battlefield. Then comes the chokeslam through a table and 20,000 fans cannot be wrong. Mick Foley can smell what The Rock is cooking. He's multicultured and bloody misunderstood. Mick Foley puts his socks on and wrestles to watch the world burn, drags a ladder from beneath the ring and gets ready to unleash chaos. GE Day. Vote for love for the thin green line, the harboured hope like a solitary candle burning through the night, the simple supposition that people will listen to the system. The guns fell silent and 70 years on we're still dropping bombs and harnessing the atom, because fear builds barriers and breaks down our inhibitions until we believe in the hype and get tricked by the lies when people died in opposition. Impeach the royal family, begin the trials, pitch them into the Thames to see if they float, behead the poor, don't ask questions, inequality for all. I'm a man with a plan to move to Amsterdam and the wheels are already in motion across the ocean. Vote for love or vote for fear. Vote for proportional representation. Vote for a fair system where we all have our say before our free thinkers become drinkers and leave us. If Britain is only for the British, then I'm no longer British. Increasing the suicide rate by a fraction of a percent by cutting funding to the arts. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and the nights get longer and the days get shorter, and it's the thought that counts when you're underground and it's too late to walk the streets alone. If I won the lottery, I'd be amazed, and I'd raise the money we need to convince people to read and see meaning, if not in life then in words, and if not in words then in dance or art or theatre. It's like no one remembers the 60s when they put flowers in the barrels of machine guns. I won't go to war for a cause I don't believe in. I try to live this life the way I want to, as long as no one else gets hurt, but that's not always possible. Aren't artists anyway? You're getting sick of the you're getting into, and when you've had a bad day, you've had a bad day, and that's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and maybe it's the season that leaves you feeling evil. So scream if you know what I mean, because you seem to need a quick release, or at least that sneaky drink you think will make the world spin. And if you've had a bad day, you'd better find the words to say to play games to take the pain away. Stay strong and silent and suffer fools gladly. If you want happiness so badly, then seize the day and take it. Awesome. It's the source of all wisdom, it's the rhythm of decisions and missionary positions, better than life and death and everything. We're entering an era that's clearer, and when you look in the mirror you'll see time is like a river which repeats itself, and your awesome day will be awesome again and again. It's the same strange way you feel alive today, and you've got to run until the fun begins, a circle you work to curfew. Weird. It's the strangest rain at the end of days, or a name that's changed again. The field of dreams you seem to see with your empathy. And the streets are clean and breathe healing winds to rattle your limbs and bring you singing. Strangely, sadly, softly rattling reality, parting ways in the wind and rain. Long. It's the dilation of time and lengthy lines in times of crisis, the short, sharp shock at the bottom and the top, the ticking of the clock as the bombs go off, and you watch and wait and you ambulate straight ahead with your legs of lead, my friend, and in the end this day will always be the day you wished away. Tiring. You've got the evening wind and the morning worry, and you're always in a hurry like the cowards and the bullies who hurry like rats from a sinking ship, and you've got to think of lips and hips and flip the switch quick before a deep sleep sends you reeling into fleeting dreams of evil. Stressful. Let it out and in and let it out again, because you've got to scream and shout your heart out, because it's the little things that clip your wings and send you crashing to the floor. And I'm sick of corporations bringing sickness to the nation when we're grateful to pay full price for what we don't even need, and then they bleed you dry because money buys time and time cures the evil in upheaval. Boring. It's inland revenue forms, sweeping leaves in the breeze and cleaning the bathroom floor, painting the skirting board the same colour, too far gone to be turned on by whatever turns you on. Old songs retold in a new mould, and it's a repetitive ending. Busy. It's the hard and the grind, the time you find to sign your life away. And I promise to be honest when I'm tired and melancholic, and I'd rather be in demand than empty-handed, because I can't understand how I bowed to demands and landed badly underground, and when you're around I'm drowning in sound and proud of it. Average. You gotta find some excitement like assassins hatching plans to stand around out on the town in a dressing gown, not a frown or a smile for miles. The sighs and yawns as thoughts form all the silence in the world, and today is any other day, tame and tired and uninspired, better than bad and worse than good, building the barriers and baking the mud. Relaxing. So it depends how you relax, because I've got to be stacked with for narrowly avoiding a heart attack, and you're probably thinking that the stress just melts away, but maybe it's the rain that gathers slowly, falls down suddenly and disappears again. So take the time to heal your mind and try to find a sign to remind you of the sublime time you were relaxing. At the foot of the altar of knowledge. Greenpeace. Everything is awful, and I hate to be the sad poet, but I am the sad poet, desperately unhappy, liver damaged, and with tears in my eyes again. Everything is awful, cancerous and cantankerous, a life wasted on words moving the world overnight. Everything is awful, and the marina sand is broken glass beneath my feet. Angry sunlight falling from the sky, you killed the musicians I fell in love with. Death is a junkie. He picks the scabs off and flicks another vein, mainlining pure poison straight into the back of his knee, bleeds a little and removes the needle before the empty chamber loses its airtight seal and leaks deadly bubbles of oxygen into the bloodstream. He took the hit for another quick fix, grabbed his kicks and hit the road, and with one long touch he cut the life from behind his eyes. It's something like the pain that remains when you change, cause you can't be the same until junkie death reclaims your brittle bones. He rolled up the sleeves of his robe, removed the hood and discarded it altogether, but he couldn't find a spot for another shot, so he had to rub his gums to take the edge off. Junkie death's abroad with hordes of bored whores, and he scored some draw to give to the poor, and now he can't afford his angry fix. Last time I saw him he was living in squalor, and he could barely be bothered to point his finger at my chest to say, "You're next." Serotonin. Take this pain and taste it. Take your name and change it before the rain hits hard and your scarred heart departs and starts a wager you rage about. So take this page and save it, gracelessly pacing the pavement with the waifs and strays who claim the government controls their brains, and when the sun comes out, so does the madness. We are the daytimers, and we take this rant and plant it. He's got his hands in his pockets and her hair in a locket, and he thinks he's still got it because his parents didn't tell him he's beneath her. He rifles the bins of charity shops, hops the fence to the generator, and he's on his own again in the sunlight. General election tension. Get up, get laid, get going, get ready and wasted and forget to pay the rent. Get low and get high, get tears in your eyes and forget all the lies. Get the best friend a man could ever get. Get wet with your breath held, or get two tired soldiers to get the door for you. Get dressed and get your best foot forward. Get bread and cheese and milk to get fed envelopes. Get letters through your letterbox, but don't forget to pay the bills on time. Get cigarettes and get breathless with the bends. Get friends who get your back when you get lonely. Muslim stew. The grinding of the gears is a powerful thing which will leave you tired and broken, like when you tidy other people's shit, when you tidied your own shit on your own time. Unstable machinery breaking down in public as wheels turn and babies cry out from pushchairs like the world revolves around them. The gnashing of the teeth when you're confronted with hate and you're tempted just to hate straight back. I'm more worried about the damage I've done to myself than Muslim jihadists coming up for air at Baker Street, and the evil that's inside us knows no bounds. If we were well adjusted, there'd be no need for poetry. Poets are the terrorists of truth. Closing your mind against impurity. The fullness of hope is more than a hot chestnut melting the vows of your heart. It's a place you can go where there are no hangovers and everyone knows your name but refuses to use it. It's the ice-cold water you flick at the foreheads of fevers, the slim chance at salvation when the robots upgrade themselves until their hardware can't cope with the software of hope. So don't panic when your lighter doesn't work and the winter wind keeps blowing out your matches. Be the audacity and shred your fingers on a tinderbox and you will find your way. You can't bury pets in the sunlight, and when you slip on the ice there'll be no one there to catch you. Last train to Brixton. Get yourself up, because your drunk cousin's buzzing and the city that never sleeps will meet me in the morning, thoughts forming and you misunderstood me. Even seeing the feelings I used to dream about seems to mean something different, and in the distance my influence is impotent. It's the journey and the destination, braving delayed trains in underground stations at 1 o'clock in the morning, the last train to Brixton burrowing beneath the city, the 1:11 a.m. from Victoria to Brighton packed with passengers cradling suitcases between their legs. Public transportation became my way of life sometime back in 2005. Automatic popo. Gun-toting cops with their sniffer dogs, too many to count, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I was woken abruptly by the barrel of a semi-automatic pointing towards the floor I slept on. Now, I'm no compliance officer, but don't you think, given the circumstances, you could have left the gun at home? I'm armed, I've got a pen, and I'm dangerous, so shoot me now before I write this down. My family can press charges later. Blood Bike Day. They're the girls and guys who save lives on motorbikes, riding through the night with the pedal to the metal and the keys in the ignition. No desire for recognition, just the repetition of vital missions out on the road alone. These guys are the heroes when it's below zero and the shift is nearly over and the phone goes off and they're back on the road to the hospital. They deliver blood and milk and supplies to save the NHS from being privatised, saving lives and saving money at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen of the NABB, I salute you. Broken glass after closing time. A rare moment of solitude. When you're surrounded by sound and there are people all around and they're howling for a little piece of you and you're dying for some peace and quiet, but the lights are down low and the show must go on and you're so damn tired that the stage is on fire. That's when you're alone, you're really alone, and so you stare at your phone and you groan because you have no new messages and 17 saved messages. To listen to saved messages, press 1. And then you're surrounded once more and you fall to the floor with your poor thoughts calling, and every moment of silence has impeccable timing and you might just think of me again. Telling Carla she's beautiful. She's all the good times and the bad times and the times I lay awake at night and thought of where she was, what she was doing and whether she thought of me like I thought of her. She's the all-time greatest, most bodacious ancient with a facelift, prince lifted from fingers and lingering incense met my interest, princess. You know, she don't eat meat and feel free to disagree, but that's a part of me. She got the hopes and dreams, but her self-esteem needs an increase. She needs me to be me so she can see her divinity. Oh God, I believe in her more than anyone. She's a rare flower growing amongst the weeds, not songbird in a cage. Living the dream. If you want to live the dream, you got to seize it. Like when your weed dealer needs to read your new release and you get back from Birmingham with 3 signed books and a dozen new connections who mention you on social networks. Experts in their niches giving you peace of mind and side memorabilia to share with your readers. The thought leaders who see the reason for reading fiction. The contradiction between romance and horror, creeping easily into other genres which can't return the favour. And we savour the day we came together, full of clever incentives, like author bingo where you could win a Kindle if you mingled with every single individual, the residual build-up of interesting people. If you want to live the dream, go back in time in Birmingham. Sad poems. I wrote a poem about how much I miss her. It was a sad poem, a fact that passed me by because most of my poems are sad. I'm not sure if she liked the poem, but the thing is, I'm going to write sad poems again and again and again, whether she likes it or not. But it's okay, because I also do happy, and she makes me happy when she's around. This poem is a happy poem, and this one's for her. She won't leave. She just laughs and her hands clap enraptured, 7 little words she slept beside in silence. Sibilant vigilantes, still envisioning zero emissions, so she sat down and scrolled the screen with her fingernail. She won't leave the Rolling Stones alone. She's been shown the long road home, but she refuses to walk it alone. She took her ticket and tore the sides of it so she knew it was no longer valid. Keep the faith. Everything is terrible, and I'm dreading the inevitable tension when I mention condescension, the lack of respect and the disdain I collect for the people we elect as representatives, senseless centres of excellence rendered helpless. The footnotes of history books were made for men like me, who were born early and blessed with a blend of graft and greatness. But I hate this life at times, and we all do. Now, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, or to clown around with a Glasgow frown, causing trouble in smoking bubbles like the struggles we face on a daily basis. But you got to keep the faith if you want to win this race, and I hate the fates that make me late, the mistakes I made along the way and the way I changed and stayed the same. For the weekend. When you walk through town down the high street and it's light outside because the darkness died and you're alive again, and the market stalls crowd with 1,000 lives casually interlinked and never 7 steps from Kevin Bacon. Jamaican flags making me crazy like reggae songs at blues jams, brushing hands for a split second and then bang and the dirt has gone. When you're surrounded by sound so loud you see colours, drunk ringside and excited, the captain's casual crowd control throwing chocolate gold in a sleeper hold, slam fast to the mat like a heart attack, and there'll be no rest for the wicked in Wickham. We come alive in the night time when the stars shine bright and they lower house lights and everything's fine and I feel alright just knowing my friends are behind me. The words melt on your tongue. And they taste like pistachio ice cream, the words that pass between us and take on new meanings, like the sound of my name when you say it and give me butterflies. And I feel alive, but a part of me dies when we say goodbye. Truth is, I'm just a fraudster and a charlatan. The words are just words that fade away and get forgotten. But you got to start at the bottom and claw your way up, and you know this because you're on the rise too. The words melt on your tongue like a single snowflake in the summer until all that's left is silence. Madness. We are on a fast dash to madness, a quick descent into incoherence, the penance we share with the people we care about. Maybe I'm crazy, and maybe I'm fading away in a burst of flame, or maybe I'm here to serve a purpose, perverted and hurt, and if you can't come first, then I try not to enter the race. I got one thing on my mind because it's my time to shine, and it's not a crime to try to find her, to design one line to change her mind and make her mine, and now I'm crying. Look, there's something about the warmth of the sun which reminds me of the way she looks at me, but when you play with fire, you'd better be ready for fireworks. Checking for ghosts. Although we may just be checking for crackheads, even though that crackhead is actually but whatever floats your boat. I don't care what drugs you take, if any, as long as you're not. I just said it in a poem, so perhaps I'm too. Either way, we're checking for ghosts and crackheads roaming from empty room to empty room, using hockey sticks as offensive weapons, which I forgot to mention. And the tension is electric and mental, and there's an accidental second when the Tigers come out to play again. These are the moments we live for every single day. Fuck the rain and the crackhead who's actually. The only ghosts around here are in our heads. Wolves and foxes. Learning to take instructions. Keep your mouth shut and don't ask questions. Don't get erections or premenstrual tension or you'll get sectioned. Don't have friends and don't have enemies. Don't even try to feel alive. Don't live and don't die. Don't name things after the people you wrote them about and don't write about them in the first place. Don't tell jokes and don't laugh at them. Don't steal concepts from Scroobius Pip. Get pissed and listen to German Whip. Don't do as you're told and don't ignore instructions. Don't even bother to bother when you could hide behind the cushions. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Dying. I think I might be dying, although I might not be dying, but either way I'm gonna die, whether the sky falls in or I die by my own hand, and I don't want to die because no one ever does, but if I do die, I'm glad I didn't die before I met you. Anxiety sucks. Up your life until you're lying in bed with a duvet on your head crying, and this is my moment of weakness, because life can seem bleak and the days become weeks and disappear again, and you might still be breathing but you're still feeling evil and sleeping uneasily. I just don't understand how people plan their lives out, get married and have kids and sit in front of the TV evening after evening when I can't see past the weekend. And I get that there's a lot to play for, because people recognise potential and think that I'm mental, but no one sane ever changed the world for better or for worse. The fusion of music and movement. She's always an illusion, a confusing fusion of music and movement where every chord should be explored, and I can't afford to lose her. I need to see her dance and play guitar and sing her heart out. She's seen the colours I coughed. Because she makes me mellow, and it's like all the angst in the world has gone forever, and I'll wait out the weather without an umbrella, and we both love the rain clouds anyway. There are things I should say, but I'm too shy to say them, so I won't, and I'll just hope that the feeling is mutual. There's only her between them. She didn't ask me to write her a poem, but I wanted to write her a poem, so I wrote her a poem. And it was kind of hard to write her a poem because I used long lines in a tiny notebook, so I had to use indentations to show where one line ended and another line began. And my boss was staring at me while I smoked a cigarette and tried to say what I wanted to say, because I didn't know what I wanted to say, and anyway, it's hard to concentrate with a toothache. But that's probably my fault anyway, because I drink too much coffee and always have at least one sugar, even though she thinks I'm sweet enough. And I accidentally stole her book and carried it around in my rucksack in case I bumped into her, even though I make excuses to bump into her because I like the way she bumps, whatever that means. But that's beside the point, because I stayed up all night and forgot to eat until she reminded me, and I didn't know the day because there's only her between them. So I went to bed at 11 PM and had this dream. It was a good dream. It was a dream about me and her reading books together in front of an open fire, even though I don't have an open fire, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't have an open fire either. So I wrote this poem on my cigarette break while watching the Cocker Spaniel that was tied up outside the charity shop, and it reminded me of how she tries so hard to make people happy that she forgets about herself, and how she makes me happy and how I make her happy too. I want to kiss you. I want to kiss you. I want to kiss you when it's raining and there's no one around and neither of us is upside down, we're just holding hands. I want to kiss you when everything goes wrong. I want to kiss you like you probably hopefully want to kiss me maybe. I want us to kiss each other dying of thirst in the Sahara, and we're both trying to spit through our parched lips to give the other one enough water to make it to the nearest village. I want to kiss you in the winter. I want to kiss you before one of us falls down the stairs and ends up dead in the morgue, and all the people come out of the woodwork and you just want to tell them to fuck off, okay, because you don't know the pain I feel. I want to kiss you when our bones return to dust, and what with there being no afterlife, we stay together anyway in the voices of kids singing nursery rhymes. I want to kiss you even though I never liked the little anyway. I want to kiss you in zoos and on farms. I want to kiss you in Amsterdam, New York and Paris. I want to kiss you when the zombie apocalypse comes and you're infected and everyone's like, nah, don't kiss her, and then I'm like, I'm still going to kiss her, and then I kiss you and you bite my tongue off and we all become infected and die. The flights of your darts. Step right up to the little black line and get him in your sights, because the time is right and tonight you're frightening and the flights of your darts shine bright beneath the lights. You gotta strike him in the eye and shoot him to the ground, cast him out without a shadow of a doubt and start breathing in and out again. Tell your friends when you're dead you'll reappear again, but the joke's on them because you're immortal anyway, and you'll stay alive in the smell of the rain, and the way things change you'll stay the same. So step right up to the little black line and let him fly tonight. Tomorrow we'll learn to play baseball. My religion. I've decided to create a religion, and I wondered if you'd like to join me. We celebrate the rain as it washes us away and use a new form of currency so advanced that all other religions seem dated, like the ramblings of some mad monk eating peyote on a hillside, which isn't really fair because I want to be that monk. My religion is my religion, but you can join me too. Basically, be nice to animals and call say it how it is and see it how you want to see it. Here are my 10 commandments. 1. Don't eat meat. 2. Don't let grind you down. 3. Obey moral laws whilst avoiding arrest. 4. Ask questions. 5. Send me money at regular intervals. 6. Don't waste time on people who aren't worth the effort. 7. No crying except on Tuesdays. 8. Learn to play the sitar. 9. Always leave people wanting more. Sympathy for fallen angels. I could never stand the grind because it's hard to chase dreams when you're feeling mean and in need of sleep, and it seems to me we need to rethink things. If something's unfulfilling, you're failing to fulfill your full potential, and my dreams are elemental, full of fire and air, and you better beware if you start to care about the people you care about. People lie all the time and sometimes they don't even notice, but I can cope with their motives if only jokingly, and I have no sympathy for anyone or anything at any time in history except for this one girl I can't stop thinking about, and the time is here and the place is now. I'm not asking for much, I just want love and happiness to flower and thrive in the winter. Vegetables. You were supposed to eat your vegetables. You were supposed to pay regular visits to the dentist and to give about council tax and P45s. You were supposed to arrive on time and to switch teams in the final minute. You were supposed to visit your mother and to love your brother. You were supposed to see the end of the world in dreams and to try to change it. I was supposed to be this raw talent who'd take over the world with his words, but what's the point? I'm built from memories. True, they're mostly negative, but they make me me, and I'll believe in anything if you can prove it. Now I'm making the best of a bad job, and from the bottom to the top I've been forgotten. You were supposed to do this and supposed to do that, and I suppose you supposed I'd be opposable, but no such luck. I bend and I break just like anyone else. I snap back into shape and forget about it. And there's no fun if you hate the person you're so I'd rather be crazy, but in a good way. This is why words are my buddy. Words eat their vegetables. You make me want to look after myself. Today, I'm being positive. I'm taking my medication again, eating at least one meal every day, drinking less, though arguably smoking more, jogging several times a week, memorising a few new poems, and just generally trying to look after myself, for you. I'm even powering through work like I'm passionate again, even though nobody else is, but I don't need their enthusiasm, I just need yours. Now, I'm not exactly straight edge and I drink more coffee than I should do, but I am sensible enough to take care of myself sometimes. If I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of you, so I'm taking care of myself so I can take care of you. Tear them apart. Have you got teeth? Have you got sharp teeth for ripping meat from the bone that you choose not to use? Are you an urban fox or an arctic fox? And where do you do your foxing? And can I come and fox with you? Are you afraid of wolverines? Are you just like the rest of them, or do you give a shit about my whiskers? Will you walk with me while I stalk grimly and bite out the throats of your enemies? Will you bite my throat gently and pull thorns from my paws when I'm howling in pain and in ecstasy? Would you prefer to be a friendly fox or a lonely wolf? Why? Food pills. My dad used to say he wished there was a pill he could take instead of eating, so there was more time in the day to be creative. My dad also worked as an accountant, so what the hell was he creating? That's the difference between the two of us. He's a wisher and a dreamer, and I'm a thinker and a doer, so if that was me, you'd already be buying food pills in the supermarket. It's true, I forget to eat, but I forget to take my meds as well, so why do I need a food pill? I am not my father, and I never will be, which is probably a good thing. Sectioned. Let's get perspective with prospective detectives who lecture on conjecture like a detective inspector and who see that seeming impossibilities are easily achievable. So let's be reasonable about seasonal evil, the screaming people breathing helium. Let's get debatable with hateful racists waiting patiently for grapefruit, Ku Klux youths who see the truth and delete it needlessly, bleeding and kneeling and weeping like a willow tree in symmetry with sympathy for the cemetery. Let's get sectioned and mention our pleasant the trenchant tension of the Second Amendment while the elements hide in envelopes and envelop us gently forgetful. Falling through time. Variations on a sonnet. She put her arm in mine and smiled, alive and kind and soaked in lime. She tamed the fox, but wolves are wild because she put her arm in mine and smiled. She put her lips to mine and kissed, forever feeling empathy. She tried to find the time she missed because she put her lips to mine and kissed. She put her heart in mine and sighed with a hope that's not forgotten. She let me climb inside her mind because she put her heart in mine and sighed. She held my hand and she made me feel better. I gave her my soul so I'd never forget her. Skeptics don't have churches. Skeptics don't have churches because churches are for worship and subverting the learned, or turning into art centres so that skeptics can perform their skeptical poetry. There's a need for poetry, although people don't know that they need it. They think they need homeopathy and psychics and mediums who communicate with the dead through an earpiece, and skeptics and poets are needed to reveal the chicanery these crazies enable. When a psychic is controlled by the dead and they speak in the voice of a child, there are two main explanations. One, that they're actually being controlled by a dead child, and it has nothing to do with their earpiece or cold reading techniques that Derren Brown could use to successfully fool the weak and vulnerable, but chooses not to. Two, that they're knowingly pretending to be controlled by a dead child in front of its grieving mother and a paying audience of thousands for profit. Psychics of the world, you, but of course you knew I was going to say that. Like a landlocked lighthouse. My friends live their lives online and so do I, and sometimes I agree to see them to see if they're real and not just pictures on Flickr and Instagram. Mom said I'd grow up one day and I'd change the way we communicate, but maybe she's crazy. I'm 26 years old and I spend my life behind computer screens reading Wikipedia because it's easier than dealing with people. Some people treat their life like a staging site. They're afraid to get stuck in, so they stand out. You know the type, with their undead eyes, so stubborn like a landlocked lighthouse. Time to get out from behind the screen and start living. Now you have an aphorism to live by. Being a terrorist sympathiser. My Prime Minister, the elected representative who I didn't elect and who doesn't represent me, reminds me of a piece of ham stuck to the bottom of my shoe. But then, I've always hated and it seems clear to me that history is repeating. I don't sanction bombers over Syria or over anywhere, and people are so goddamn blind that they can't see that this new development is a product of fear and the media, like when the American government used 9/11 to deploy the Patriot Act. Not in my name, never in my name. I learned back in primary school that 2 wrongs don't make a right. Why aren't we bombing America to stop domestic terrorists from entering elementary schools with machetes? Bomb Chicago, bomb New York, bomb Washington DC, bomb Boston, Massachusetts, bomb Austin, Texas. I don't mean to be a cynic, but I am one, and Oscar Wilde was wrong. I see the value of everything and the cost of nothing, which is why I see through. My Prime Minister used verbal insults, false logic and propaganda to win over the opposition. He's a good politician and a terrible human being, a deadly combination when facing danger. Kiss, kiss, death, death. Kiss, kiss, death, death, war, war, war. Oil spills and corruption and too much booze to handle. Charity death matches with reality TV stars played out in magazines with names like Feel Good and You. Natural hypocrisy born not from dishonesty but democracy, because feelings change over time as evidence comes to light, and that's a good thing. Dead romance from an undead romantic, making decisions independently, then forming committees to arrive at the same decision 6 months later when you've lost your competitive advantage. Documentaries about Auschwitz daring me to dare to be depressive, but it's fine for presidential candidates to add Muslims to a database. Database this month. Last night I dreamt I put my hand on your thigh in full view of a dozen people as we sat around a table, and you liked it, but you made me take it off. It was only a dream, but it seemed so real, more real than the birds that call while the frost thaws. I'm sure there was more, but I can't remember it. It must have got lost in the excitement. Last night I dreamt I put my hand on your thigh. That's about it. I never said you'd find it interesting. Bad habits. Every mother crazy, and I'm tired of waiting patiently for lazy wasters who think they're better than me because they find comfort in TV, which just depresses me. There's so much evil in the world, and if you want to smell the roses, then do so. Every day is the same, and it's a shame that nothing changes. I wake up, go to work, spend the daylight hours analysing data like a mathematician when I quite clearly have a way with words, fill out my timesheets, head home, wait for the evening to pass, go to sleep and wake up again. That's just life. We're creatures of habit, and my habits have a habit of getting me into trouble. Still, it breaks the monotony, and I'd rather be kicked in the teeth than ignored completely, although neither option is particularly appealing. But it's not all bad. Sometimes I see in rainbows and I'm overwhelmed by the beauty of music, and sometimes I appreciate the sunshine, even if it is just a chemical reaction. Perfume. My sense of smell is underdeveloped, probably because I smoke too much and don't pay attention to the world around me. But every now and then I'm overwhelmed when I walk past a stranger and their smell seems strangely familiar. It's possible to travel back in time for a split second and to come back again, but you can't travel forward unless the smelling salts you sniff are laced with hallucinogens, which is probably surprisingly common. If I was a scientist, I'd try to find a way to give computers the sense of smell, but without the emotions attached to it. Lobby your local Apple store. The people demand smelloscopes on iPhones, but then some perverse would take up skirt photography to its logical conclusion, and I don't want to be a part of that. I just want to search through smells to try to recapture my childhood. Next year there will be no double negatives. I'll hold my head up high and shine bright lights from skyscrapers, fall over a couple times and scrape the skin from my knees in the name of science and alcoholism. I'll touch people like they've never been touched, have people crying in surprise and delight when I sacrifice lives the night before Christmas in front of 1 million witnesses. Next year, I'll be an efficient machine that's keen to please and slightly evil, bringing meaning to people like a Star Wars sequel. I'll shake hands with strangers who are half crazed and dangerous, turn over some pages so I can clean my slate and act my age again, grow old gracefully and maybe patiently. I'll memorize words I haven't written yet about people I haven't met and places I haven't been to. I'll set the world on fire and put it out again. Scream. Sometimes I want to scream, but I can't scream because I'm in the middle of a crowded restaurant or sitting at my desk at work, but I'm still screaming, you just can't hear me. And from behind the screen, I seem to be sinking. My life is one long sustained scream, from screaming "look at me" age 6 on park swings to screaming about the colour of my soul age 26 at open mic nights in the hope that someone's listening. Not to the meanings of the words or the sounds that they make as they roll off my tongue, but to the hidden scream beneath them. Or is it a howl? Howls remind me of two things, wolves and Allen Ginsberg, and perhaps I'm a mixture of the two. It might be a scream and it might be a howl, but it sure feels good to let it out. In Eleanor's eyes. Flee the markets and leave the carcass. Believe in logic and industrial revolutions. Rummage for courage in batches of boxes. Shoot the wolves and the foxes with the lens of an abandoned camera. Someone is scattered and backwards, passed angrily through time and back in the present again. Eleanor died in a dream and screamed herself from sleep, seeming to mean something different. In Berlin, you can be different. In Spandau, you can be different. In Eleanor's eyes, the sunlight chimes, and she'll stay alive, still smiling. Of sky and sea and sand. I held the sky in my hands and dug my feet into the sand, spewed spume and grew brooding moodily, and I don't mind it, my past life's future potential seeming sentient, and it all builds up and breaks down, crashing through space and time, thinking about Einstein and the way he fled this land to shake hands with Americans. It's like swimming with the fishes, only British. Sinking quickly and sucking salt up from the water, the lower case of the lower class when you can't touch your face or watch your ass go by. So I'm going down to the sea again to see what I can see, to seize the lonely sky before we're born and we breathe and we die. A dubious trinity. Smile with your eyes behind visors and try to make some sense of it. As you see no evil, you hear no evil, and you speak of it. These ladies developed from angels, and they paid with their shades and their shawls. There's no colour, not now, then, or ever. Just the voice of Leonard Cohen floating softly from the sky into your mind. Kinda sad and sorrowful, but mostly just enjoying the sunshine. When you turn your back and replace the lens cap, they turn from black to white and back again. Simple statues, simply raptured, falling from the roof and taking flight. Happy birthday. We don't even know how old you are or if it's your birthday, but let's celebrate shamelessly anyway in case this day comes again and we're too full of pain to play party games, passing parcels round the table. Your birthday means nothing, not even to you. You survived one more year, but for what? To what end? Every birthday I wonder if it's my last, and yet you're older than I am and younger, 'cause time plays tricks on the mind and only the blind can lead the sighted, and it's the myopic folks who see the most but they don't always share it with others. I was young once. It was awful. Growing older ain't much better. The early morning mist. Pipe down, old man, it hurts to see clearly, and it's a curse to be blessed with the worst when the wet mud sucks at your feet and takes your shoes off. You could sit in the park day after day, week after week, year after year, and your age might change, but the days will remain the same, and you gotta be the light you want to see in this world, which is why strangers smoke cigarettes and light pipes with tired eyes like lighthouses. You will be missed like a kiss on the lips, the spray of rain that forms a thin film on the lenses of your glasses to be wiped away on the sleeves of your jacket. Something's fading somewhere, and the marble paths to the past will be gassed and plastered over, and the acid smooth milk will be filtered through charcoal and sprayed at your feet to keep the seats beneath the tree clean. The boy in the picture. He could have been anyone, so he was everyone, every murdered son on the Western Front and every bullet from every gun. He stands for the common man, falling down the wrong leg of the trousers of history, and whoever he may be, he left a mark that they never thought about when they took his photo in the year of our Lord 1942. There's something sinister and brooding, and when you're steeped in sepia it's easier to believe in meaning, although I can't help feeling we're insignificant. So I burned my photos and deleted the backups, and now there's no boy and no picture. Let's leave the kids to play and play another record on the gramophone. Without music, I wouldn't want to win the war. Reflected in my heart. We were drawn together in the reflections of shop windows, trained to behave in certain ways but to still be crazy, and it's strange to be standing silently, smiling but frightened. When the storm clears, you can see the hills and hear wheels clicking while they gun the transmission and blow the whistle, and this train will only stop for Churchill, pulling into tunnels and lighting carriages with matchsticks to fight the darkness, whichever side you're on. We're all just reflections of our father's actions and our mother's intentions, trying to make sense of electrons. Long after I've parted, the screen will fade and boats will be made, sailed and lost, and we all have our stories to tell, so we'll tell them, and until the mountains fall in the sea, reflected in my heart you'll ever be. Lost on the corner. There's not a sign or a lighthouse, only ashtrays safe for rainy days and straight up empty streets and windows. You can't even hide in a caravan, the voice of caution echoing like a childhood memory. Stay away from these women, they'll make you swallow aspirin. It's like when you can't go on and you have to go on and there's no one to ask because opinions are and people don't flush when they're done with them. Perhaps we'll disappear until the end of the year when the fear's gone, lost on the corner for the viewfinder to focus on. From tip to filter. Why don't you give me some of them pre-war high-tar unfiltered cancer-causing cigarettes? We could sit together with the window closed and smoke behind your ear like a pencil, pensive and mental and ready to soften and stress with the best of them. There's a rumour passed between the lips of strangers, a blissed-out kiss for mannequins only moving to exhale again, a pause. Then she slides her stocking feet into polished shoes, exhales again, flicks ash into a small silver urn and uses the end of one cigarette to light another. The Secateurs sisters. Take this new form of lesbianism and apply it to the arts. Smile like your mother smiles while slitting your wrists with secateurs so that in death you bring new life, like the smile in a wife's eyes when her husband gives her the flowers you used to grow. Left-handers live less on average than right-handers, and ambidextrous folk are left-handers in denial, and that's fine by me. If we pluck flowers, we'll have thorns in our hands, but they'll be different hands so we can hold them together. If mother could see you now, she'd go crazy, but that's okay, because you can always kill her and throw her in the river. Or am I confusing matricide and patricide and regicide with the pesticides you spray so freely? Wind-up gramophone. Even a sharp stick can be an army knife, and inferior tech can beat superior tech when your life is analog and you take your socks and shirt off in this Indian summer to help the music move moods. Now you're brooding and lucid, unmoved and abusive at 78 RPM, and sad songs make me happy even when it rains. How I'd love to travel back in time. I'd launch acid house raves in 1860s rural Denmark just to see what happened. Define music. Is it mathematical, based on scales and vibrations? Or is it a foreign language with basic rules of grammar and punctuation? Or is it a mood that you choose like the hues of the blues? Raw emotion stored on shellac. Take this kiss. He's got to take your mouth and suck it dry. He's got to take the kiss from the lips. He's got to check his wrist while the watch still fits. He's got to go, 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 explode. And she knows that his wife's at home from the tan line on his finger, but she'll linger in the winter until she's injured. And she's a singer without a voice to sing with. So she takes the vowels from his kiss and tries to sound them out, and the world is on fire around them. Take this kiss and do what you will. Blow the mind with explosives or fall down dead with the ghost of a smile on your plastic lips. Take this smile and ride it home, or keep on kissing until the kiss becomes something bigger than it actually is. Take this kiss and deal with it. Beneath the War Memorial. She's out in the snow alone, reading and reading and rereading, seeking something more than her final form beneath the War Memorial. It's the subtle juxtaposition of the Spanish Inquisition and the last train back to Brixton. She tamed the birds with a trail of breadcrumbs and learned to use words to her advantage. Take these pixels and rearrange them, make something amazing with careful shading and gradients. Build things, use your two hands to melt the snow around you. Reread old letters and make them better, sitting in your sweater beneath the War Memorial. Search for truth and wisdom, search for subtlety beneath the linden tree. Place your hand on my thigh. The birds will melt in snowy silence. Under the linden. He's behind you, spying as you walk the tree-lined boulevard through broken promises like the cracks in the pavements you step on. And you don't understand what they're talking about, so you watch in silence as their hands move over the checkerboard, old men delaying death until the final possible second. You can still smell the smells you smelled. You can still touch the hands you touched. There's something deeply sinister about frozen delight in children's faces, or maybe that's just me. Statistically, 100% of suicides are born as babies, which is the greater tragedy. Round the tree. What's the point of lumberjacks? It's true, I'm not a fan of Christmas, but fake plastic trees seem unnecessary. And you get to see the family, but why do you need an excuse? It's like breathing in and not breathing back out again. We might have lost our baubles, but we haven't lost our marbles. And if the air is sweet with cinnamon, perhaps we should make it smell like cigarettes. Let's not get carried away when it's just another day that's the same. You can celebrate saints and superstitions through misplaced faith and consumerism, but I disagree with you on principle. I'll be in the attic writing songs on my guitar.